Sometimes I wish we could go back to a time when things weren't so complicated.
Welcome to the complexity of toilet paper, the podcast that dives into the everyday moments where we overthink, hesitate, or just get stuck.
I'm overthinking. I'm overthinking.
Let's hear it for the toilet paper!
Through honest conversations, unexpected insights, and a whole lot of humor, your hosts Phyllis Martin, Mark Pollock, and Al Emmerich are here to help you roll with it and make your life a little less complicated. One conversation at a time.
That's right, dude. The beauty of this is its simplicity.
Speaking of which, it's time to enter the stall. Put the lid down, or not, depending. Get comfortable, and roll with it.
Oh, worry not, dear friend. It's really quite simple.
This is the complexity of toilet paper.
There's this little swirl of a big toilet. And oftentimes people look at the swirl and they go, I wish I was surfing. And they go, why do I think I'm surfing and looking at a toilet bowl? And in that moment, they don't realize that their creativity is being unleashed, because that's what a child would do. That's what children do. They look at the toilet as a PlayStation. They look at it as a place to throw their poo and sing songs. No, they do. You just don't remember as a child that you used to do that. And I used to have a character called Who Flung Poo that I would play with in the toilet when I was a small child.
This is more than anybody wants to know.
And so, why is Al sharing this very personal, childish story?
Why?
That's what we want to know.
The reason is because we have invited into the stall Melissa Dinwiddie, who has just written a book, but that's not even the coolest part. She is one of the most creative innovators, fun people, amazing, awesome people, and I knew that she wouldn't quit the show after I said that.
Because she wants to be associated and introduced with poop.
With poop.
No, I didn't say poop. I said poo.
Okay.
And maybe that was Winnie the Pooh.
That's where my mind went.
Thank you.
I will state for the record.
Thank you. Hi there. Welcome to the complexity of toilet paper, another open that has never been choreographed, should never be repeated, and has probably cost us the remaining few downloads that we've ever experienced in our show's history. Melissa, we figured out a while ago that I am collectively, individually, and superficially responsible for the regression of downloads and listeners because of the open.
Well, you know, that's something to be known for.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Hi, I'm Al Emmerich.
Hi, I'm Mark Pollock.
Hi, I'm Phyllis Martin.
And joining us in the stall is...
Melissa Dinwiddie.
Yay!
Yay!
Melissa, we could do all these formal introductions of big voices saying, our guest today is so-and-so, but we would much rather allow you to deliver your own introduction. So what would you love, knowing what we're going to unpack today, right? We're going to talk about innovation, creativity, but most importantly, the complexity of innovation and creativity, but through a completely different lens. But we don't want this to be that typical kind of like, hey, tell us about your first moment when you felt creativity and, you know, what led you to this career. I mean, that is interesting, but you have such a beautiful take and your mind is so wonderful and you are so true about just stepping into the mirror. And that's what this show is about, right? Although we don't recommend having a mirror in front of the stall, but that's another topic. Be that as it may, please tell the world of folks that are listening to us in the stall all about you. What do you want them to know?
No pressure here. Well, I think... Given this intro, and by the way, can I just have your voice whenever I'm being introduced anywhere?
Yeah, AI can make it possible.
Yeah, well, that's probably true, but it wouldn't be you.
Oh, thanks.
You know, I will share with the world that you sent me some questions in advance of this conversation. And the first question that you asked me was about making life, what speaks to me about making life less complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have to share, like, I am kind of the world's biggest overcomplicator. And I think that, well, maybe not the world's biggest, but I really identify as an overcomplicator. So that's one thing that I'll share. And I think that really ties into how I define myself now as an intentional imperfectionist, because I think there's something that overcomplicators and perfectionists may have in common.
Yeah.
I'm seeing some head nods here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, God. Well, you got to remember that the three of us came together with a unified, oh, my God, where's the that was easy button? Oh, we don't own one.
None of us. No.
Yeah, and I think that part of my journey to where I am now and to where I'm continually trying to get to is that constantly trying to find the where's the easy button, because my default is to go to the overcomplication button.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're in good company.
and the listeners are going, damn, they finally got a guest that actually does specifically what they talk about. So tell us about, just kind of give us the business card here. Like, what is your company? What are you doing, so that those who didn't read the bio about the show can know, like, you know, who is this woman? What does she do?
Yeah, so my company is called Creative Sandbox Solutions, and I work with leaders and teams of companies. Specifically, my sort of sweet spot is leaders who work with analytical folks, people who identify as, I'm not creative, although I also have worked with creative teams as well, because they have their own struggles. But I have a framework that I call the Create the Impossible framework to help teams and organizations achieve more breakthroughs and innovations. And it's a 3-step framework. And it comes from my own background. I don't come from corporate. I've never worked in a corporate environment as an employee. I come from a creative background. And as a creative, as an artist, as a professional artist, I struggled with creative block. Before I became a professional artist, I self-identified as a non-creative person for many years. And when I was making my living from my art, I really struggled with, I didn't actually have a problem filling my deadlines for my clients, but where I struggled was making art for my own enjoyment, which is why I became a professional artist in the first place.
Oh, wow.
So here I was making my living as an artist, which is like the holy grail for artists, right? Artists are always trying to make a living from their art, which I was doing, but I was living a miserable life. And I felt like I was living the most uncreative life possible because I wasn't doing the very thing that I got into being a professional artist in order to do, which was making art in order to, feed my spirit.
Man. All right. So Phil, Melissa, we don't choreograph very much in this show. By the way, for those of you sitting in the stall with us today, Phil will need to potentially leave the show a little early. So so you know, if her voice disappears from the show, it's not because we kicked her out of the stall or she got flushed. It's because she had to leave to go do something very important, because everything Phyllis does is important. Right?
So wrong. Good grief.
Phil, obviously we know I had the question, but I saw your head nod. Do you want to break in with a question in response to that?
I have like 12,000 questions just hearing you, Melissa, just say those words. But one of the things I got super excited about when I was reading about you and just looking at some of your clips is how...
Oh, that's her dog. That's her.
Finn's very excited about this conversation and wanted to make sure that he gets it.
Finn was reading your website too.
Yeah. We
just don't understand.
Here.
We don't understand
Nothing
bark, so we don't know what he's saying.
I can try to see if I can make him stop for a second. If okay.
Nah.
So was that how I'm paraphrasing what you said, by the way, but how creative people don't typically identify as creative, which just blew my head off when I heard you say that. One, two, now that I'm hearing you and you're here in the stall with us, I'm thinking how I would never, for various reasons, like go into the corporate sector because of my the perception in my head that it would be too rigid and I would never be able to express myself in the creative ways that I want to. So I'm fascinated about how you found yourself in the space that you're actually in, and the notion that actually doing the art that you love could somehow be unfulfilling because of the different lenses that get applied to that when you're in the midst of doing that. I think just rings true for so many people who are creative or innovative. And there's usually an overlay that happens that sucks the life or the energy out of the thing that we say that we love the most. So I'm really excited to be able to unpack some of this with you. And I'm excited for me, but I'm really excited for our listeners.
Yeah, well, let me speak to the last item first. And that is, it's really easy for something that you love, that you're really passionate about, for all the joy to be sucked out of it. And if you apply a layer of commerce on top of whatever it is you love and are passionate about, that can suck the joy out of it really fast. My mom had a really good friend who loved to cook, and everybody was telling her she would make these amazing spreads for people, and everyone said, "Oh, you should be a caterer." And so at one point she decided to do that. And for about 6 months, she pursued that and she put up her shingle as a caterer. And then she suddenly quit. And it was only like 6 months. And she showed up at, some party somewhere, and people said to her, "What happened? Why did you decide to quit?" And she said, "Well, let me put it this way. I really love sex, but I don't want to be a prostitute."
Great analogy.
Right?
Yeah, I get it.
And that is what happened to me with my visual art. Now, I have to say, when I first started making art, and I was so just enthralled with, I had rediscovered my creativity after 15 years of believing I'm not as, all these people over here, they're the artists, they're the creatives. I don't get to do that. So I'm not as good as them. So therefore I'm not a real artist. I'm not a real musician. So therefore I don't get to do it. So I just quit. Age 13, I stopped making art. Age 15, I stopped making music. Boom, I was done. So now, side note, I did pursue dance for a number of years, and I ended up going to Juilliard for a year. Then I got injured. That was the end of that, whatever. But for 15 years, I didn't do almost no art, no music, whatever. Then at 28, I came back to it and I dove into it. And it was like, if you've seen the movie The Wizard of Oz, and the whole first section, it's all in black and white. And then Dorothy goes into the house and she gets swept up in the tornado, and she opens the door after the house lands from being swept up in the tornado. She opens the door and suddenly she's in Oz and everything is in Technicolor after being in black and white in Kansas. That is how my life felt when I rediscovered art and creativity. It was like, oh my God, I get to have this. I do not have to be, Picasso or Prince, or, you name the famous, amazing, genius person. I just get to have this thing. It was amazing. And I fell in love with it. And I just spent hours and hours and hours a day pursuing calligraphy and painting and all these different things. Fell in love with the art of calligraphy and just pursued it. And suddenly people were starting to say, "Oh, can you do this thing for me? I'll pay you. Can you do this thing for me? I'll pay you." And I kind of fell backwards into this at the time, it was just a little hobby business. Then I ended up getting divorced, and I had to decide, do I turn this hobby business into a real business, or do I go and get a job? And because I didn't believe that I had the skills, that I didn't think anybody would hire me for any kind of, real job that would pay the bills. I thought, you know what? I can make this work. And so that's what I decided to do. But what happened was I bought into a story in my head that everything I made had to bring in money. That if I made anything that didn't bring in money, I was wasting time. Yeah. And that it was frivolous. It was a waste of time. And I put so much pressure on myself that everything I made had to be amazing. And when you put that kind of pressure on yourself, it's paralyzing. So that everything I made, when you have that kind of pressure on yourself, what happens is you just stop. What happened to me, and this, I know this happens for other people as well, you just stop making anything.
I think that's where the overthinking, the complexity comes in, because that's a lot of thought, right?
Yes.
And it's a lot of debate in your head. It's a lot of what ifs in your head. And I want to go back to something that you said, and we don't have to sit on it very long, but we've had the opportunity to talk to a couple of artists, whether they're community artists or comedians or whatever. And it's very interesting. You had said, you go into it not thinking that you have to be someone like Prince or whomever, Picasso. I think the difference, though, is they were just discovered. They're not any better, right? They were just discovered at a different time in a different place. So you are a Picasso, you are a Prince. They just happen to have an agent and someone found them. You know what I mean? So I think it's important too for people to understand that as they're maybe taking what you're applying to physical art or musical art or whatever the case may be, it's the same thing within their jobs. You talked about never being in corporate. I am. I'm in higher ed, but it's kind of like a corporate world. And, a lot of what you're saying is resonating because you have to be creative, you have to be thoughtful, but you can overthink it until it's not fun anymore.
And the irony here, Melissa. So transparency, Melissa and I met through the very same lens that Tyler Schultz, who was formerly one of our guests, met. We both participated with Chris West. Love you, Chris! Shout out! And in his keynote speaking retreat, and the interesting thing, Melissa, is that my need, and it was a need to make money, and Phyllis and Mark lived this with me, was so driving the fun out of it. And it was also, the other thing is, it drives you into a multiplicity of choices that are bad decisions because you end up chasing a dollar and not focusing. So it's like, oh, this doesn't work. Oh, well, you don't even know if it works, you idiot. It's like you didn't even give it the run. It was just a great experience. And then it's something else, and then it's something else. And so you talked about, and then Phyllis, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but Phyllis, as Melissa's talking, I'm thinking about you with music, coming back to music.
I was thinking the same thing. And Melissa, my own experience is like very same thing. I loved to sing, dropped it when I was a kid, never came back to it until recently. And the thing I've discovered in that process is I've just chose to let go of any end result. I'm just letting it go. And so I'm singing because I love to sing. I'm singing songs I love to sing and stories that I want to tell because that's what makes me feel human and alive and authentic and like I'm doing the thing I was supposed to do. And I actually said this to my voice coach the other day. I don't really care. This is big for me. I don't really care what people think after I'm done singing. Like I'm going to do my first set in a couple of months. I do not care. I did this in a very selfish way for me. I hope you get something out of it. Like I hope it translates across and out. But that's not the point.
Yes.
At all. And that's really translated into my work too, in various and sundry ways, which has made my life much easier and brought a sense of peace and quiet confidence, shall I say, to the work I'm doing. It was letting go of that end result, whatever that end outcome. I am not tied to it. I just know what makes me feel alive, what brings me joy, what I really love doing, and in many ways think I was actually called to do. And a lot of things got twisted on the road, but now here we are.
I so relate to that. And in fact, in my book, The Creative Sandbox Way, is based around 10 guideposts that I developed to get myself out of creative stuck, which is I was almost completely blocked for about a decade during that period of time when I had this professional art career. During that time, by the way, I turned to music as my creative outlet, and I ended up becoming a jazz singer on the side. So it's not like I was completely creatively blocked, but I was blocked from doing the visual art that I had so loved. And so finally, I the way that I was able to get back to it, this is around the 2010, 2011 time period, is I developed a set of, at the time I called them rules for myself, because I am a rule follower. And I developed this handful of rules that over a year or two, I expanded into 10. I changed them to guideposts because most creatives don't like rules. But guideposts are okay.
That's right, yeah.
And so those 10 guideposts form the backbone of my book. And guidepost number 2 is think process, not product. And exactly the same for me. Anytime I find myself getting caught up in that outcome, it is toxic for me. And it ends up not, the ironic thing is I end up not creating my best work. And it's like it turns me, it's like I end up devouring myself and not coming up with my best work. And it's completely toxic. Whereas if I can focus on feeding myself and being in the process and what gives me joy and what makes me feel good. And yeah, it's great if this also makes you happy or gives you something that makes me happy as well. But it's not about that. It's not about impressing you. It used to be for me. It used to be so important for me to impress other people and like be the best at whatever I was doing. That used to be so huge for me. And it's been just this incredible journey of growth for me to get to this place, just like you were sharing, Phyllis, of being able to let that go. And I'm not saying that I'm done with that journey.
We're never done with that journey.
Yeah. It's a constant life journey for me. But the ability to be aware of that and to see where I'm starting to fall back into, I'm feeling the need to impress other people, or I'm starting to feel competitive, or, I'm comparing my work or where I am with other people. Like just when Mark was sharing, you're as good as Prince or whatever, my internal voice was going, well, actually, no, I'm not. And then I had to sort of pull myself back and say, it's not about whether I'm as good as Prince or not as good as Prince. It's about where I am in my journey and what's feeding me. And it doesn't matter if I have the same chops or the same skills or the same, because I'm not Prince anyway, So
let's put a pause on that because, well, first of all, thank you for the immediate dive into the vulnerability, Melissa. I mean, seriously, thank you. That's
Al, that is one of my superpowers.
Yeah, well, I think we talked about that, and it's a bond that I think was before we knew it was a bond, because that's why the three of us love being in the stall together. We've learned how to be vulnerable together, but also it's a natural state and desire. So let's go back out for a moment because, we've got people who are, this is probably part one of what will be multiple shows down the road. We always say that when we have a really intriguing guest on. And you are definitely intriguing, and we won't cover all the bases. But you said something early on, in our pre-conversations that I think is a cornerstone for the show. And if we don't even talk about anything else other than your tips, which we're going to get to. And by the way, if you're listening to the show, yeah, we're going to talk about Melissa's book. We're going to talk about those 10 guideposts. But before we get there, and I'm going to read from my notes. You said complexity is not the same as complicated. I can't begin to tell you when you wrote that how the three of us felt, because we literally spent hours discussing that, not only just in the naming of the show, but the early stages of how we were going to approach these topics. And so I felt, and we felt like, oh my God, was she in the room? So unpack that for us. Complexity is not the same as complicated.
Yeah, I remember when I first heard that explained to me, and it was a real light bulb. And I don't remember who I heard that from. I wish I could credit them, because I didn't come up with that realization myself. But the metaphor that I sent to you is complicated is baking. You follow the recipe, you control the variables, and you get a cake. Complex is jazz. You show up, you listen deeply, you respond in real time, and something emerges. But you don't solve jazz. You play it. So, and then if we're going to go with you'll be very happy I brought toilet paper.
Yeah.
Pretty toilet paper,
right.
too.
It does.
Wrap.
It says, who
toilet
gives a
paper-
crap on it? I
Our
love
toilet
that.
paper's plain.
I know.
Yeah, no, this is during the pandemic, and this will be relevant in a moment. During the pandemic, I remember right before the shutdown, being in Trader Joe's and thinking, should I get 2 things of toilet paper? Oh no, I don't want to be a hoarder. And then I suffered because we couldn't get toilet paper.
Oh,
and
geez.
we actually ended up ordering these like really weird toilet papers without a core from.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was miserable. So I finally, when I discovered Who Gives a Crap, and I got a subscription when they finally were opened up to new subscribers.
We'll have to take a screenshot of all that.
Yeah, we
later
will,
in
for
the show.
sure.
Yeah. So anyway, to bring it to the toilet paper metaphor, to the stall metaphor, toilet paper manufacturing is complicated. It's a system that you can understand. It's complicated. But toilet paper shortages during a pandemic, that's complex. That has way too many variables going on. So overcomplication is often a fear response to complexity. Mm-hmm. When we don't trust what we know, when we don't trust learning, we reach for control. And, when problems are complicated, what works is analysis, right? Optimization, execution, those things all work when problems are complicated. But the challenge is that when problems are complex rather than complicated, all that stuff doesn't work. What works is actually more akin to what Phyllis was talking about before: play, experimentation, learning. And that actually jibes with my Create the Impossible framework, which is play hard, make crap, learn fast. Crap, by the way, which is very in alignment with the stall metaphor.
Yeah. That wasn't missed by the team. So when people, and Phil, because you do need to leave early, you have full right to just say, "Al, shut up. I need to ask my question." Of course.
Thank you.
You're welcome, which I know you would anyway. So you have this play hard, make crap, and learn fast. When you are working with businesses, when you are working with individuals, 2 questions. First of all, how much of your time are you spending undoing or helping them see the difference that you just alluded to, the difference between the complexity and the complicated? Because that's the barrier to saying it's okay to play hard. That's the barrier to the confidence that I can actually make crap or them thinking that literally they make crap. And then, of course, those two are the barriers to learn fast because they won't have the confidence or the brain path. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. And I think that this conversation is helping me think more about being more explicit about shining a light on that difference for my clients. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Because when they call you and they say, hey, come see us, we need you, they are trying to uncouple something that to them is complex or complicated because they haven't solved some sort of a problem, correct?
Yeah. I mean, to be quite honest, to date, most of the challenges that clients have come to me with are more specific around, like, we need help around a specific communication challenge that we have. And my goal is to get more work around the creativity and innovation.
So they don't view, but do they even understand? Let me just ask you this. Do you think, like, this is a show about unpacking this very topic? How do we make our life more simple, one conversation at a time? But at the cornerstone of simplicity is this roadblock of how do we define simplicity? More importantly, how do we define complexity and complication? Phil.
I'm really, really curious, and I'm going to try to formulate a question, but I trust you will pick up on what I'm thinking about. I am very curious about the connection between adults' willingness to play and simplifying life or simplifying the process to finding a solution. And I'll use myself as an example. When I was, again, like looking at some of your videos, I was like, oh, no. I don't want to have to play. Every time I'm in a group and somebody says, oh, we're going to take out toys and we're going to play. That's not what they say, but you know what I mean? I'm like, nope, I'm not playing. I don't want to play. I don't like those toys. I'm going in a corner. And then after I get through with the exercise, I'm like, oh my God, I had the best time. That was the best thing ever. So I feel like there is like a really tight connection between one's willingness to let go in that way and to decomplicating things, because I think play in some ways is the antidote to fear or distrust in ourselves. There's something there, and I'm curious if there really is, given how you use that as a tool.
I think you're absolutely right, and I typically don't use the word play for exactly the reasons that you say, because we have associated that word with children and frivolity and things that are not important in this culture, in this, puritanical work ethic culture, right? So it's not to anybody's advantage, unfortunately, if I use the word play, if I use the word improv, which is one of the tools that I use quite a lot in my work. I don't use that word very much because people are going to jump straight to, oh my God, I'm going to have to be funny. I'm going to have to get up on stage in front of my peers who I want to look professional and always present as excellent. And I'm going to feel embarrassed and be ashamed. And that's not what I do with people. So I don't use those words. So that's one thing. Do I encounter resistance? Sometimes I do. But I'm pretty skilled at creating psychological safety in a room and scaffolding activities so that by the time we get to the activities where there might be more resistance, people are inclined to not have as much resistance to them. Does that make sense?
It does.
It does. Help us understand, Melissa. You said that, in your business, you're going to other people's business, helping them solve problems. I'm curious. You said it's around communication, potentially, but I'm curious what problems you're seeing organizations deal with today, where complexity and complications are the intersection of what you're trying to fix. So what are you seeing there?
Well, I can share just a few examples. Like, I've done a lot of work with some research teams, user experience research teams, where the teams are not seeing their insights being spread throughout the organization because the individuals in the teams are, for example, come from highly trained academic backgrounds. They all have PhDs, and they're trained in certain ways of communicating that are not effective in the corporate environment that they're now in. So they're trained, for example, to argue their point and dig in their heels with their arguments, and kind of more sort of a belligerent tone. And they bury the lead when they send emails to people. They fire hose people with information, thinking that if I just give all the information that I have about the topic, that's going to be the most effective way to present the information. They use researchese jargon that their cross-functional teammates don't understand. So they have this really important piece of information that they're trying to share, but it's just going over people's heads. So these are some examples. They don't have the essential empathy to understand where their audience is coming from. So they don't have this sense of common ground and understanding of their audience's context and perspective in order to be able to share information in a way that their audience is going to be able to take it in. So that's one example. So I come in and I run small activities that are play-based.
Hey,
that
we'll edit. Don't tell anybody.
Okay. That get them to identify, start to feel sort of metaphorical muscles and build these metaphorical muscles so that they can start to communicate in new ways that are going to be able to help them to connect with their different types of audiences in more effective ways, so that the really important insights that their research is uncovering for them can be spread more effectively throughout the organization. So let me give you one example of an activity that I run quite a lot that's really, really effective and impactful. It's called Time Traveler. So, and I do this virtually, I do this in person. It's super effective either way. I divide people up in pairs. One person is from the present time. Nothing's changed for them. The other partner is a time traveler from 500 years ago. So before I send people off into their breakout rooms or a different part of the room, if we're in person, I ask people, okay, it is, so say we are in January of 2026. The time traveler is from 1526. So what would life be like for this person? How is their daily life different? And we do some little popcorn of how life would be different for that person from 1526. So how would life be different? And the three of you, how is life different for somebody from 1526?
Right.
A lot.
You want us to answer that?
We wouldn't have this show. That's for sure.
Literally, you wouldn't have this show. Exactly.
Right. We wouldn't be sitting inside a warm room. We wouldn't,
No central heating, right?
Right.
You get no toilets.
Phyllis would, knowing her brain would still be the brain it is today, she would probably be whipped and strung up somewhere. Because her voice would not be heard. We won't comment on that, even what it is today.
Right. Right.
Mark and I might have hair back then. But
I probably would have had hair.
No, we wouldn't be. We wouldn't have access to food. I mean,
different clothes, different food. We go down the line, and so we spend a couple minutes on that. Then I send people off. Before I send people off, I say, okay, present time person, you're going to imagine that your cell phone just went off, and you are going to have to explain to your time traveling partner what this device is. But remember, there's a very high likelihood that your partner is going to think you're a witch.
Yeah.
And so not only do you have to explain what the cell phone is, but you're going to have to convince them not to condemn you to burn at the stake. You have 2 minutes. Go.
Wow.
Now,
wow.
it's an impossible... yeah, right? Wow. It is an impossible task. It's impossible. But it generates a lot of laughs. People come back after the 2 minutes, and it really is impossible. I've done it myself. And then I poll the room. How many witches are in the room? Half the room raises their hand. But then I ask, okay, time travelers, what did your partners do? Did anybody have a partner that did something that was effective? Somebody did something. Somebody did something, and it always has to do with finding some sort of analogy that was relevant to their partner. They found some kind of common ground, and they found an analogy that made sense in the context of their partner.
Yeah.
So then, knowing that, I have them switch roles. I give them a new task. It's not a cell phone this time, it's something different. And I send them off and they do it again. And we come back and then I debrief again. How many witches? There's still witches, but there's fewer witches. And we debrief again. And then, of course, I ask them, you're not going to run into it's highly unlikely you're going to run into somebody from 500 years ago, but you are going to run into somebody who has different context from you. What does this have to do with your work life, with your daily life?
See, I think that's so cool. I mean, I even would think, late 1800s that Alexander Graham Bell invented the phone. I mean, how hard would it be to describe a cell phone to the guy who invented the phone?
Seriously.
Like, could you imagine having to explain what he invented today?
Right?
That would be crazy. I get this image as you're talking about this as a tool to resonate with people. So my mind goes to visuals of the art that you're creating, whether it's physical art or art on a canvas or song. It's like walking someone through almost like a museum to see what's going to resonate with them in order for them to appreciate what they're looking at and what they need to do. Because people don't resonate the same way. You can't communicate to the C-suite the same that you communicate to a big group of people. And so using this art really allows a lot of people to appreciate it.
Speaking of appreciation, Phil just had to leave the stall, so just want to let everybody know. But she was like waving, and she is so bummed right now because
she's so
I think
upset.
she's got a massive crush on you, and we need to get her signed up on your book club, your book launch team, because she will push this stuff out. So,
awesome!
I know she would. Well, all of us will, but I know Phil would specifically and join me. So, listen, Melissa, there's so much you could teach us, and thank you for teaching that moment. I want one more question before we do our roll up, and then of course we want to get to the stall. But your book is called Innovation at Work.
Yeah.
Okay. But you also have the Creative Sandbox Way. And so this is kind of a dual thing, because I don't want to lean in too much to the corporate stuff. I want people who individually are just trying to find their own path to creativity and freedom. So, what is the struggle that you see from everyday Jane and John Does that you talk to, that come up to you, whether it's a corporate gig or not, and say, "Hey, I'm really struggling in this"? Because I want to tee up that affinity before we deliver kind of some of your tips to really get people going, "Oh, I need me some of that, so I'm going to buy that book." But more importantly, to follow you, because so much of what you write about helps people, not just in the business world, but in the real world.
Well, what I hear over and over again from so many people is just that I'm not creative. I don't identify as creative. I don't think I'm creative. I hear that over and over again wherever I go. So that's a big one. And then regardless of whether people identify as creative or not, there's this consistent strain of perfectionism and the comparison trap.
God.
That we are all hit with this.
Yeah. We hear that we hear that, Mark. We heard that from Toby. We heard it from all of Maul, musician.
Yeah.
I mean, our own selves, right? Gosh. So when you hear that from people, like, what in your mind is the breakthrough that people have to give them license to step forward?
Well, I think part of it is recognizing that you're not alone, that is something that we all struggle with. No matter how sort of big you get, no matter how famous you get, no matter how popular your work is, everybody struggles with that. And in fact, the more, famous you are, the bigger those demons get. So they never go away. And just knowing that can actually really help sort of tamp down those demons, I call them gremlins. And the guideposts in my book, The Creative Sandbox Way, have been just phenomenally helpful. I mean, I wrote the book for myself.
Yeah.
I developed those guideposts because I needed them so badly. We teach what we need to learn. And the second book is...
Say that again. Say that again, because that's huge. Sorry, Mark, she gets the first mic drop. Say that again, please.
And I didn't make this up. We teach what we need to learn.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason right? I mean, the reason I'm so passionate about this is because it is my biggest bugaboo. It's the thing that I'm constantly fighting against and struggling with and dancing with, I mean, in this moment when things are so challenging in the world right now, I, as a former professional creativity instigator, I mean, this is a big part of what I used to do during the time when I was a professional artist. I also was a professional creativity instigator, creativity coach, helping other people get creatively unstuck, B2C. I ran creativity coaching programs, creativity community online, creativity retreats, creativity courses online, helping other people get creatively unstuck using the guideposts from my book, The Creative Sandbox Way. Like, what worked for me, I discovered worked for other people as well. And so I was helping other people. But here's the thing, how they say the cobbler's kids go without shoes?
Yeah.
It's so much easier to coach other people than it is to coach ourselves, right? But here's what I always say. We're always going to stumble. That's not the problem. The most important thing is simply getting back on the wagon and doing so with just the utmost self-compassion.
Yeah, I really, that resonates with me because there's a couple things that I've heard recently that sound like that, and one is when people are I'm talking to somebody and they're stuck. A lot of times, what I'll share with them is, well, listen, if I was in your shoes, what advice would you give me? And then why the other piece is, then why can't you do that for yourself, right? And so
you did that to me.
The other day, I was driving down the highway and there was trash on the road and I couldn't swerve because I was on a bridge, and my daughter was in the car, and it was either go into a semi, hit a car that was next to me, or hit this piece of wood that was in the road. And so I hit the wood and cracked the rim of my front tire, blew the tire. Thank God the car drove fine. I was able to get off the bridge, but I had to drive about a mile on a blown tire and cracked rim and pull over to the side. Long story short, it was a lovely $1,800 later.
Wow.
And I remember being really, 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 really pissed off at myself. Even though it wasn't my fault, I was angry at me. I was thankful nothing happened. And I had to sit there and use my own advice and say, well, if my son had called me or my daughter had called me and said, I blew a tire because I hit something on the bridge, I wouldn't be like, oh my God, I can't believe you cost me $1,800. But first, are you okay? It's fine. It's just a car. No one gives a shit. It's going to be, no one cares. Like, well, let's just get it fixed and we'll move on with life. But I couldn't do that. And so, I think that comes down to a lot of what you're saying too, is just being able to give yourself permission for some grace and permission to take advice that you would give another person.
Absolutely.
That's a great analogy, Mark. Thank God you're okay.
Oh my God.
It was scary. Actually, it was really scary.
Yeah.
I was scared. I was like really scared.
Sounds terrifying.
All right. So on that note, I think we are going to turn around. Actually, no, we're going to roll into reverse. And this is the first time we've ever done this without Phyllis. And so this is so weird. This is kind of bummer, but it's all right. We will have it. Melissa, we have something that we call the roll up. That's right. This is when we step into the stall to unpack and unravel and unwind and to roll out the questions that are really meaningful. Forget all this crap we've been talking about that's really, really deep and meaningful and life-changing. We're going to ask the questions that people really are sitting on and maybe shitting on. Who knows? And so I'll crack the porcelain first with the question that I want you to bend your brain on, and that is, what is the most innovative or creative breakthrough you've had while going potty?
Oh, good Lord. I have. I don't know that I've clocked that, Al.
We know this, which is why we don't actually prepare for this, and you can fully say, I don't know. But if you had to take a guess, if you had to say, wow, well, there was this thing, what would it be? I mean, there's no way we can fact check this, by the way.
Yeah.
I have absolutely no idea, but I'll just make up that I came up with my entire concept for my last book. How about that?
So you
Oh,
what's
no.
Have you ever?
Spitballing here.
No, that's totally okay. That's totally okay. Is there an idea that you've heard of from people that has been innovative or creative that people have told you they created while it was an idea that came to them on the John?
I cannot say that anybody has ever told me that they about an idea that they had when they were sitting on the potty.
I think that's going to change after this show. Someone's going to come up to you, and you're going to have to call in and share that with us.
Haven't you heard people?
So I got an easier question. Okay. I got an easier question.
People don't have these conversations with me. I do have a friend who's very into poop stories, but people don't have conversations with me about what they were doing when they were sitting, thinking about when they were sitting on the toilet.
But yet, haven't you heard, Mark, I promise you're good, but haven't you heard people say the phrase, oh, I do my best thinking on the toilet?
I confess that I have not.
I must have some really weird friends.
I mean, my husband has very scatological humor, but that's his, his domain.
All right. Well, we have stumped our first guest, I think.
Wow, I don't know that that's ever happened. So my question...
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah. So my question is, what is your go-to song that you sing in the bathroom?
Well, I sing in the shower.
Yeah,
that's fine. That's fine.
So I actually turn at the after I take my shower, I turn the water to cold.
Okay.
And I have written a song to my 10 guideposts.
Mm-hmm.
And I sing that so that it's the proper amount of time to be under the cold water. And I sing that.
Huh. Wow.
Well, that's interesting.
That's pretty damn creative.
That's pretty cool. I thought you were going to say that you sang Ice Ice Baby by Vanilla Ice, but your own song sounds cool too.
What do you think, and this is, hey, I helped co-found an improv company. I've done improv. You've done improv.
Yeah.
We got to find a way to do improv together, but we're going to do in this moment right now. Okay. So here we go. There's a game in improv called What If, and you create a scenario that's normal, like you're in a bathroom and then you have another thing. And so And then you say, well, what if this happened? Or what if this was this? So here we go. We're going to play What If with you, Melissa.
Okay.
All right. You're in a bathroom. And what if instead of a toilet paper roll, it was a guitar?
Ooh. And I'm supposed to just
What song would you play with that guitar?
Oh, I would play Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, oh yeah. 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 Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hey, I hope right now there are some people in the stall and they are humming along and they're going, is it chitty chitty or shitty shitty bang bang? I don't know. All right, last one I've got, and then Mark, unless you got one. All right, so what if toilets, when they flush, didn't swirl water, they swirled blank? Fill it in, and what should it be?
What if they swirled cats and dogs?
Oh my gosh. What if they swirl? And if they did swirl cats and dogs, what would you do?
I would rescue the cats and dogs.
And what would your name be after you rescued them? What would the title of your book be after you've rescued the cats and dogs from the swirling toilet with the toilet paper that was a guitar?
It would be Melania, cat and dog rescuer from the toilets.
Mark, are you going to still be on the show after this? Are you going to still allow me to have any guests and ask any questions?
I plead the fifth.
I almost feel like we should be doing WWPD. What would Phyllis do?
Yeah. We probably should have.
You were going to ban me from the show. I
know.
know.
No, I'm being banned. You're going to take over as the new host with
Phil's
Mark
out.
and Phil.
Yeah, I was out.
All right, Mark, bring us home with some questions before we give our dear, wonderful guest the chance to share the glory of what she's doing.
I honestly think we should get into the tips piece. Like after coming out of that, I want to say thank you. I know we're going to run into the last thoughts that you're going to provide the audience as we leave the stall today. But what I gathered from the conversation, I typically do the recaps, is, whether you think that you're a creative or you don't think that you're a creative, we tend to run into roadblocks. And, when we overthink and we overcomplexify a situation, we don't allow to solve the problem, which is the complication. And so without being able to solve the complication, which is the problem that leads to the complex, we're just stuck. We're stuck in that bathroom. And so with some humor, with some play, and with some tips that you're going to share, it allows us to release the need to be perfect, release the formality of what we're building, and go solve some problems in a fun way so we love what we do again. Does that seem true?
I love that.
All right, cool. So on that note, you've referenced even singing to the pillars. Could you share 2-3 tips that you want to make sure that this audience knows as they go back out into their world?
I'd like to share what I refer to as my golden formula.
Okay.
Which is self-awareness plus self-compassion, which we referenced a little bit earlier, equals the key to everything good. I'll say it again.
Please.
Self-awareness.
Self-awareness.
Plus self-compassion.
Yeah.
Equals the key to everything good.
That's the mic drop right there.
Ooh.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that is, sit on that, man. That's, oof. And I love the simplification of the complexity of, yeah. So, tell us, we're going to post stuff in the show notes, and this show will drop probably in February-ish, I think, or maybe early March. So tell us, where do you most want people to find you, first of all? We'll talk about the book in a minute, but where do you want people to most find you?
The best place to go is my website, which is my name, melissadinwiddie.com.
That's MELISSADINWIDDIE. So it's Melissa Dinwiddie, not Dinwiddle, Dinwiddie.com. I've done that, melissadinwiddle.com. And
I did buy that domain and have it redirect. So.
No, great. It was great. I was like, oh, did I spell it wrong? So very good. That's smart. I should have bought it with 2 M's for Emmerich, because people always add 2 M's.
Oh, yeah.
Social, any particular social handles? I mean, you do some great work on LinkedIn, but anything particular you want people to follow up on?
LinkedIn is really the main one where I'm active. I also have a YouTube channel, which is also my name.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm on Instagram, but that one breaks the pattern. I'm at _creative_life.
So, Melissa, you've got the book coming out. Tell us about that. When is it launching and how can people get it?
Oh, yeah. Thanks for asking. So the subtitle of the book is 52 Micro Experiments for Brave Leaders Who Want to Unstick Teams, Spark Ideas, and Build What's Next. And the bulk of the book is these 52 micro experiments, these little experiments that you can run with your team in anywhere from 5 minutes to 25 minutes. A few of them are to be run over the course of a week, but most of them can be run in a team meeting or something like that. So it's really designed for leaders, managers, directors, VPs, who want to build in more innovation in their organization, in their team, but don't want to have to pull their team away from their, daily operations in order to do that. So it's designed so that you can run through, one experiment a week over the course of a year, or just open the book and pick an experiment. I've got all sorts of protocols in the book that you can use. I've got guides to help you determine which experiment to use according to what challenges you have going on in your team or in your organization. Lots of different ways to use the book, and it's really designed to help you build more innovation in your team, in your organization, in a very hands-on, effective way.
Awesome. People are going to go to work and they're going to have fun, it sounds like.
Yeah, without one of my reviewers wrote, without it being, woo-woo.
No woo-woo. No woo-woo. Awesome. When is it launching and how can people get it?
So the soft launch, that's when the Kindle will be available, is February 13th. And then the official paperback launch is March 10th.
And they'll be able to get that Amazon. Where can they buy the book?
Yeah, at that point, you'll be able to get it on Amazon, and then it will be available at other places after that. And you can go to innovationatworkbook.com to find more information about it. And you can also just go to my website, melissadinwiddie.com, and you'll be able to find out information about it there.
Well, hey, listen, this has been an utter joy. And you stepped into the stall with everything that I knew you already would, but the joy of just the authenticity and sharing so much of yourself. And this is, would you come back in the stall with us?
I'd love to, anytime.
Awesome. We'll have to get a full improv session in the stall. We need to figure out how to do that. Improv
we could do that. We could figure that out.
Improv in the stall.
Ooh, that would be fun.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Have a ball. Some improv in the stall. We'll invite you all. Hey, listen, we'll give you a call. Don't drop the ball. You know it, baby. See how I did that, Mark? I got it in.
I saw it.
I saw your big shit-eating grin, too.
Yeah, I like it.
This is the complexity of toilet paper.
Did you say toilet paper?
Everything complicated. One big medieval mess.
I'm overthinking.